Hello, my name is Thiago Aranha, and I'm here to show you a little bit of Night of the Living Dead, a Zombicide game. Here we have a bit of a setup of the game that you're going to receive if you back this Kickstarter. First thing is to know that this is a prototype. This is an incomplete prototype at that, so some of the components are a bit unfinished. You will get a whole lot more zombies, and it's a bunch of some house-made stuff, but this should give you an idea of what this game is and how it plays. Night of the Living Dead, transposing that from film to a board game was a very interesting experience in that we really focused on it. We watched the film several times to look at all the details, and so the game design team really tried their best to translate all the little nuances of the film into mechanics. And the artist, Karl Kopinski, did an amazing job translating all the visuals of the film into a board game. Henning did an amazing job on the board, so you see all that. But in production-wise, we really strive to find all the key characteristics of the film, of the characters, to bring them in the form of miniatures and components and equipment cards and the tiles. So it was a really nice journey trying to bring this film into board game form. This is a Zombicide game, but it is first and foremost Night of the Living Dead. So we really try to bring the sense of the film. So it's not exactly, if you're familiar with Zombicide, it's not exactly that gun-toting, blasting zombies mayhem that you see in Zombicide. It can evolve or devolve into that, but at its core, you have this group of survivors holed up in a house, barricaded in, trying to last the night as the zombies are crawling in, trying to break through. And at the beginning, these people, they are very flawed. They are very selfish and self-centered, and they have a hard time cooperating. They don't really know how to deal with advanced weaponry. But as the game progresses, there may be some evolution. You have to learn to cooperate or you won't last long, and you have to learn to become a more capable survivor if you're going to reach the levels that you need to. So for those of you who are not already familiar with Zombicide, I'm going to give a very brief overview of the basics of Zombicide. So you are a group of survivors and you're cooperating to fulfill the objectives of the missions, which in this case are scenes from the film. So every round we're going to draw a number of spawn cards and spawn zombies of the type indicated. So we have a walker coming in here, and then we have a fatty coming in over there, and another walker right over here. So as the game progresses, the board is going to start filling up with zombies that you need to keep under control. The survivors have several actions they can do on their turn to try and accomplish their things and fight back the zombies. So looking at your character, you have your own plastic dashboard that takes care of all your things. You have your ID card with your skills. You have your inventory with equipment, 2 hands, backpack slots, and you have your XP track that tracks your experience and also your danger level. And you have a little health tracker there to keep track of your health. The survivor can use its actions to move around the board and try and attack the zombies using its equipment. You roll dice, and depending on the results, you are able to eliminate the zombies or not. When you eliminate a ghoul, then you get some experience points, which as you evolve into higher danger levels, that allows you to unlock new skills on your ID card. So you get a new skill that makes you a bit more capable, but there's a side effect to that, because as the danger levels progress, when you draw new zombie cards, more zombies will come in. So the more capable the survivors become, the more zombies come into the board, and there's this escalation as the game progresses. That's the very basics of Zombicide. Now let's take a look at what Night of the Living Dead does with those basic mechanics to bring the film to life.
Night of the Living Dead.
Okay, so now let's delve into some of the Night of the Living Dead specific features of this game, what it brings to the table. First, the survivors are holed in this house, and initially they can only search on the house deck. So when you spend an action to search, you draw from the house deck, and this has more mundane objects like a mason jar, which is not that useful in itself, but with some flammable fluid you can turn this into a nice Molotov cocktail. However, there are other decks separated that you can access throughout the game. So you have a ranged deck and a melee deck, but of course these are, as per the movie, in their own places. So you can only find weapons once you go upstairs, and you can only find better melee weapons once you go in the shed next to the house. At the beginning of the game, the survivors are in what we call Romero mode. So their ID cards show them as they appear in the films. And that means they are not all that capable, and when they search, they can only search the house deck. However, each scene is going to tell you what you need to do to go into Zombicide mode. When you do that, you flip your ID card, and this has a different depiction of your character with a different set of skills. And you can also swap your miniature for one that's a little bit more of a hero, actually. And at this point, the survivor, he gains the skills as listed, and he can also access different parts of the house. So for example, Barbara here can now go upstairs and draw some ranged weapons. For example, she can find a sawed-off or a revolver, which will really help her in her fight against the ghouls. Or maybe she goes to the side of the house to search for melee weapons, where you can find things like an axe or even a chainsaw. The game really changes as survivors start to cooperate more and swap to Zombicide mode and become action heroes for sure. Now, a very important feature of Night of the Living Dead are the barricades. So during the first scene, the survivors have gathered wood and barricaded all the windows to try and protect themselves from the ghouls coming from the outside. But this is a tenuous protection at best. The barricades, the survivors can actually manipulate them quite a bit, because if they have something like a claw hammer, a survivor can open a barricade and sneak out, rescue someone, go in, and then spend an action to barricade the window again. So the survivors have a lot of options to how to use the barricades.
Good luck.
Yeah.
However, they need to always be careful to maintain them, because one new zombie type we have in Night of the Living Dead is the breaker zombie. So this guy is going to spawn like other zombies, and it works in general like any walker. However, it of course has the power to break barricades. So say during the beginning of the zombie turn, you have a few walkers and a breaker here. The first thing that's going to happen is the breaker is going to break the barricade. That's what it does with its attack if there are no survivors in the zone. And then the other zombies which are in the same zone, they haven't acted yet, they get to move on that same activation, they get to move, and there is nothing stopping them from going into the house. And now you're in big trouble. So you really want to eliminate those breakers as soon as you see them, even if it means stepping out of the house, cleaning them out so you can protect the people inside the house. Okay, now skipping ahead a little bit, we have Barbara killing one more zombie, which leads her to orange level, and she's able to choose a skill. Because she's in Zombicide mode, she has a choice now, and she chooses +1 free move action, a new skill to help her. This, however, may not last, because there's one last new zombie type in Night of the Living Dead we need to show you, and this is the relatives. So when those spawn, this is actually Barbara's deceased brother, Johnny. And this is very distressing for her and all the survivors. So this causes all the survivors to go back to Romero mode. As long as there are any relatives on the board, all survivors go back to Romero mode. And this means all the skills that Barbara has managed to accumulate, now they go back down to Romero mode. So now she only has slippery and +1 action, because it's a different setup. Now, as soon as someone manages to remove the relatives from the board by killing them, then all the survivors which were in Zombicide mode go back to Zombicide mode, and they get the full benefit of all their skills. Now they can access their different decks again, and the game continues. Another thing survivors can do in this game is combine equipment. There are some pieces that can go together to create new and more powerful things. For example, adding a scope to a rifle to make a sniper rifle. Or, for example, Barbara can find some flammable fluid, which is extremely useful because zombies are very afraid of fire. It's very effective against them. So she can use some fluid to light a table leg on fire, and now she has a torch. The torch deals more damage, is able to kill fatties, very, very useful. And she still has some fluid left in her can, so she can actually give this to Harry. And combining the fluid with the mason jars, Harry can build himself a Molotov. Molotovs, of course, can be used to kill every ghoul in a zone. You just discard it, and all of them are gone in an instant. And more than that, the survivors can choose to actually extinguish the spawn zone, moving it somewhere else, so they can have better control of the zombies on the board. Very useful. So this was just a little glimpse of Night of the Living Dead, the Zombicide game. Of course, there's a lot more to the game, and especially each scene really has its own dynamics, own special rules, because each one depicts a part of the movie, and it takes you following the story of the movie and beyond. We really want players to take the movie in their own direction as if they were taking part of it. You can check the rulebook on the Kickstarter campaign to have a full look of how the game plays. And I hope you like what you see and back this game, and I hope to see you there.
Night of the Living Dead.